6-2. Today we're going to be talking about rates. So the last lesson we talked about ratios. So basically when it talks about rates this time, we're doing the ratio of comparing two objects, but we are adding on units. So we're adding on miles and inches and seconds and things like that on the end of them. That's what changes it from a ratio to a rate. So, like I just said, a rate is a ratio that compares two quantities with different units. So we're talking about different units like 160 beats per 2 minutes or 60 miles per hour. All those things are talking about comparing two different types of units or two different types of measurements. Okay, now we need to talk about a unit rate. So we have a rate, now we have a unit rate. Anytime you see the word unit, I want you to think of the prefix uni, like a unicycle that has one wheel. Think unit, think one. So basically, a unit rate is a rate that's simplified so that it has a denominator of 1 unit. So instead of saying 60 beat or 160 beats for 2 minutes, we want to figure out how many beats are happening per minute for each minute. So we would take 160 beats over 2 minutes and divide a 2 out to make it in simplest form, and we have 80 beats per minute, or for 1 minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some practice problems. Let's look at example number 1. Now for the first example, we have $300 for 6 hours. So first of all, we're going to go ahead and take that information and make a rate. And then we're going to go ahead and simplify it so that we have a unit rate. So we don't want to know how much we made for 6 hours, we want to know how much we made per hour. So for each hour, how much money did you make? So first of all, we're going to have to write it in order. So we have $300 for 6 hours. Okay? So now we're going to go ahead and simplify it to a unit rate. So in order for it to be a unit rate, we want a 1 in the denominator. So we want to know for 1 hour. So that means we're going to have to divide by 6 if we want a 1 in the denominator. So let's go ahead and divide the numerator by 6 as well. So 300 divided by 6 is going to leave you with 50. So basically this is telling me that you're making $50 per hour. So that's our final answer. Alright, let's look at number 2. We're going to be doing a very similar process. It says find the unit price of a 4-pack of mixed fruit if it sells for $2.12. So basically if a 4-pack of fruit sells for $2.12, how much does a 1-pack cost? So we have $2.12 over 4. So we have it costs $2.12 for 4. And now we're going to go ahead and divide by 4 to figure out how much each one costs. So we're going to divide by 4 so we can get a 1 in the denominator to make our unit rate. And then we're going to go ahead and do the work over here. We have 2, 1, divided by 4. So 4 goes into 2 0 times. And then 4 goes into 21 about 5 times. It's going to give us 20. Subtract and we're going to get a remainder of 1. Pull down our 2. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So basically, when we look at our information, it looks like 0.53 over 1, or that is basically saying it's 53 cents per box of fruit. So 53 cents. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at number 3. This one's a little bit different. It says Kim bought 4 notebooks for $6.32. At this rate, how much will 5 notebooks cost? So first of all, let's make our rate. We have $6.32 for 4 notebooks. Now we want to go ahead and get it to where we are figuring out how much does 5 notebooks cost. Okay? Now one way you could think about it, if you're thinking about a proportion or something like that, you can think 4 times what gives you 5. But in this case, that doesn't work very well. So we're going to go ahead and what we're going to do is figure out how much each notebook costs, and then we're going to go ahead and multiply that by 5. So we're going to go ahead and break it down and figure out how much each notebook costs. So we're going to find the unit rate. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 4, so that I will figure out how much each notebook costs. So I'm going to go ahead and do my math. I'll do it right here. We have $6.32 divided by 4. 4 goes into 6 one time, and then we're going to have 2. Then we're going to bring down our 3. 4 goes into 23 about 5 times, and then that'll give us 20. Minus, we're going to get a remainder of 3. Bring down our 2. 4 goes into 32 exactly 8 times. So right now we know that each notebook costs $1.58. But we're not done yet because it wants us to know how much 5 notebooks are going to cost. So if that's how much each notebook costs, and we want to find out what 5 notebooks cost, we need to set it up as a 5 here because we want to know, we don't want to figure out how much 1 notebook costs, we want to know how much 5 notebooks cost. So we're going to have to go ahead and multiply by 5. So we're going to multiply by 5, and I'm going to go ahead and do my work over here. We have $1.58 times 5, you're going to get 40, and we're going to get 25 plus 4 is going to give you 29. And we have 5 times 1 gives you 5 plus 2 gives you 7. And then we have 2 decimal places. So we know now that 5 notebooks cost $7.90. So be very careful when you're doing your problems not to stop here and finding out what each one costs because you have to read what the question's asking for. So if it's asking for how much 5 notebooks cost, make sure you're giving them that answer, okay? Now let's go ahead and look at our last example. Now this one, we have a chart of information. It's all about different brands of peanut butter and how much they cost per ounce, or per so many ounces. So basically, the question here is which one is the best price? Which one's going to give us the best deal? So in order to do that, you remember when we were talking about fractions, and if we were talking about which fraction is greater than, which one's less than, which one's equal to, things like that, we talked about getting a common denominator. Now we are going to do that here as well, except our common denominator is going to be 1, because we're going to find the unit price. So since this one, like the Nutty brand, for 12 ounces it costs $2.19. For the Grandma's brand, we have 18 ounces cost $2.79. So you see that we can't compare those yet because those aren't the same size containers. So since they're not the same size, we're going to figure out how much do these cost per ounce. So let's go ahead and set them up. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and make a list of my rates, okay? So for the Nutty brand, we're going to go ahead and have $2.19 for 12 ounces. For my Grandma's brand, we're going ahead and set it up as $2.79 per 18 ounces. For the Bees brand, we're going to set it up as $4.69 for 28 ounces. And Save-A-Lot brand, we are going to set it up as $6.60 for 40 ounces. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and simplify. So first of all, we want all of these denominators to be equal to 1 because we're going to figure out how much does each ounce cost. So in order to do that, we're going to have to divide by 12 here because 12 divided by 12 is going to give you 1. We're going to have to divide by 12 here. In this rate, we're going to have to divide by 18. Divide by 18 so that we can get 1 here. We're going to have to divide by 28 here. Divide by 28 here so that we'll have a 1 in the denominator. We're going to have to divide by 40 here and 40 here so that we have a 1 in the denominator. So if you see what I'm doing here, I'm basically dividing out the denominator because if this is how much 12 ounces cost, I want to know how much 1 ounce costs, so I'm going to divide by 12. And I did that for all of my denominators to divide out so that I had 1. Okay, so now let's go ahead and figure out which one's going to be the best price. Alright, so once you go ahead and divide it all out, you'll figure out that for the Nutty brand, it's about 0.1825 per ounce. For Grandma's brand, it's 0.155 per ounce. For Bees brand, we have 0.1675 per ounce. And then the Save-A-Lot brand is 0.165. So the reason why I didn't completely change it to round it to the nearest cent yet is because I wanted to see if we were getting really down close. Because see, if you see the Bees brand and the Save-A-Lot brand, if I would have rounded them, they would have looked like 17 cents both the piece because this one would round up and so would this one. And you wouldn't be able to see that there's a tad difference between them. So, but after you looked at all of them, you'll see that the Grandma's brand is actually the cheapest because it's only 16 cents per, well, you rounded up to 16 cents. So this one's about 18 cents per ounce. This one is about 16 cents per ounce. This one's about 17 cents per ounce, and this one's about 17 cents per ounce. Alright, so our Grandma's brand is the cheapest option. Obviously, you can see that this lesson is actually really useful in life. So if you're just buying stuff at the store and you want to figure out what's the best deal, this is a very applicable exercise here. So let's go ahead and, as always, rewatch the video. If you have any questions, look back in your textbook. There's already some examples done for you. You can look at those and see if you can figure it out. And as always, please bring your questions to class tomorrow and I will be happy to answer them. Let's go ahead and do some on your own. Alright, you have 4 problems to do for me. Numbers 1, 2, and 3, go ahead and find the unit rate, which means you want to figure out, in number 1, how many miles do you go on 1 gallon of gas. Number 2, you want to figure out how much does it cost per pound. Number 3, you want to figure out how many feet per second. Number 4, it says after 3.5 hours, Pasha had traveled 217 miles. At the same rate, how far will she have traveled after 4 hours? Go ahead and solve those problems. Good luck. We'll see what you get tomorrow.